It's Monday, June 23rd, 2025, with Michael Friscolanti, editor-in-chief here at Village Media. I'm Scott Sexsmith. Welcome to Closer Look.
Closer Look. I feel like we've been working on this for a long time, Scott. It's nice to hear you finally say it. Episode 1.
Season 1, Ep1.
Season 1, Episode 1 of the revamped Closer Look. For those of you who've been kind enough to follow us along this journey, our podcast journey, you and I, for the last couple of years, hosted a show called Inside the Village.
Yes.
We loved it. It was a great success in our minds. We interviewed some fantastic people, talked about some important issues. It was one of the suite of shows that we had here on the network.
Right.
You also hosted Trillium Talk, which was a weekly discussion with our team at Queen's Park on Sunday mornings. We had the behind-the-scenes segment where we would interview reporters from across the chain about a story they were working on that was interesting to people all over the province. That evolved into Closer Look that we were running in the last few months, which was a daily conversation that you would have. And the idea was kind of pitched to us by people smarter than us.
Yes.
Saying, Village has grown so much. Our network has grown. We're now at 26 sites across Ontario. We have the Queen's Park team with the Trillium covering the Ontario legislature. We have our team up at Parliament Hill at Parliament Today. The idea being maybe we needed one kind of signature flagship show every day, every weekday that runs every night, in this case at 7 p.m., just talking about the issues of the day, big and small.
So what we've done, and you alluded to it, taken all of those shows, put them into a pot, and we've, the end result is what you see behind us in Closer Look. But a lot of this started, and this is a little, inside baseball stuff, with a bit of a basement leak here at our headquarters located in Sault Ste. Marie, which gave us and those who signed the checks and authorized the POs the opportunity to revamp the studio that we work out of every day.
That's a great point. It is kind of a funny story. The studio we're in here at our headquarters in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, it's in the basement of an old bank building, which is our headquarters now. It's a beautiful facility. And there was a little bit of a leak in the studio, and that meant they had to pull the floor out, do some concrete work. And the idea was maybe we should revamp this space. It was very cramped. There was wires all over the floor,
yes.
Cameras everywhere. And, we're going to show a little snippet of it to our viewers who are watching. It's like a Love It or List It episode. It really is. It really is unbelievable. Like, you come in here and it's, for us who've been working down here for the last few years, it's mind-blowing. It's a beautiful space now, and it just feels so great. And it's just a fitting time to sort of kind of say, maybe we should kind of launch a new show to match.
Yeah, and we're kicking it off in style tonight with former MP Charlie Angus.
Yeah, Charlie Angus is, like you said, a former MP in Northern Ontario for a long time, more than 2 decades, an NDP MP. He's now kind of leading what he calls the Elbows Up resistance tour.
Yes.
He's kind of going around different communities. He's definitely not going quietly into the night, into retirement. He's still busy at work. And these are the kind of conversations we're hoping to have every day on the show. Maybe someone like a Charlie Angus will join us. Some days it will be one of our journalists or a couple of our journalists joining us for a panel discussion about something that's making headlines. Could be a key stakeholder in an issue, could be a leading expert on a topic that we want to learn more about, or just could be the person making news, a big newsmaker around the province.
And the one thing that we wanted to achieve with this program is we wanted to have, credible, insightful, meaningful conversations, also unfiltered, and there will be some of that. And that's the beauty of this. It's all about meaningful conversations with people who are making the headlines right across the province.
And I think that the great part of this show will be the variety. Like today we'll have somebody like Charlie Angus come on. We have some great other guests planned for the rest of this week. So there's going to be a great variety. If whatever you're into, whatever you might, we're hoping that you'll learn something new every day if you tune in. And like we said, it's going to run across the network, across our chain at 7 p.m. every weeknight. And, I'm a little nervous. I'm not going to lie.
Yep.
A daily podcast, something we're going to have. So we're going to be jumping in the studio every day for a few minutes talking. But I think it's a natural progression. We're talking about the news all the time. We're talking about headlines. We talk all the time about the stories that we do that mean something to us, that have an impact in our communities. And there's no reason not to talk more about them.
Absolutely. It's Season 1, Episode 1 of Closer Look, and we're glad that you're here for it. Joined on Closer Look by the one and only Charlie Angus. Charlie, thanks for joining us tonight. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on.
All right. Now, we definitely want to talk about the Elbows Up resistance tour that you've kicked off since leaving politics. But, Charlie, let's get a few things out of the way first. You didn't run for re-election in this past election. So after 21 years in federal politics, you're no longer an MP. Why did you decide to retire now?
Well, my region is bigger than the United Kingdom. I love the people, but I got communities with no roads. I've got over my fear of flying in little bush planes a long time ago. Endless snowstorms. And for me, politics has always at the local level. It's in the coffee shop. It's at the Legion Hall. It's being at family funerals, making the time. And so in the last riding redistribution the government put out, they somehow felt my people were somehow overrepresented. So they threw on an extra 20,000 square kilometers, hundreds of miles of road, about a dozen towns I'd never been in before, and said, now do that on top of all the rest of what you're doing. And I thought after 21 years that I wasn't going to do that. And then with the Trump election and seeing, to me, what was an existential threat to our country, I thought if I was driving all the roads, getting to all the little community halls, and that work has to get done, but I wouldn't be doing what I felt was necessary at this time. So I hung up my skates.
Good to know. I appreciate that, Charlie. Again, we want to talk about Trump and then about the tour as well. I did see you the other day talking about the last election and how you thought it went. I believe the quote was, it was an unmitigated disaster for the NDP. Why did you use that term? Why was it so bad?
Well, I think that, we're going to see very quickly how important it is to have a strong third party, social democratic party. It's why we're not like the politics of the United States. We had scored huge victories in this last parliament. I mean, getting a national dental care program, when we said we were going to come in and get that in parliament, and we were laughed out the door, but we secured that. But I think what happened is that as the Trump election was coming, the party was not paying attention. They were really trying to sell the idea that Canadians would vote for us because we had a leader who was fun, who was a great guy, very likable. But that wasn't the reality of what people were facing. People wanted a wartime prime minister. I did share my concerns with the party that, like, guys, in January, the whole world has turned upside down with the Trump election. We need to be talking about the fears. We need to be talking about a plan, and simply saying we've got a great guy. That wasn't what people wanted. So I think the party missed a huge historic opportunity, and now it's going to be a lot of work of rebuilding. That work has already started. I'm talking to people at the grassroots level, but that's going to be a big job.
What was your reaction to what you were saying to the party? What was that when you delivered that message? What did they say back to you?
I don't think it was all that popular. One of the things I've learned in politics is that politics and the teams around them and all their comms people and their experts, they know what they know and they're good at what they do. So when you present them with something that's outside the box, they go to what they know. Otherwise, they don't want to look dumb, or they don't want to look like they don't know what's going on. But we are now completely outside the box. We're dealing with politics we haven't seen since the 1930s. So I think I felt like Cassandra or Chicken Little, saying, guys, the world is being upended around us. We have to start talking really differently, and people want to hear straight talk. And I think they figured that they had a plan and it was going to work, and it didn't work. I'm not surprised, but I felt I had to say it, and now we got to move on.
Charlie, have you found yourself getting a little bit nostalgic now that you've packed up the office on Parliament Hill? And the follow-up to that is, what is the one thing that you're most proud of as your time as an MP?
Well, certainly the thing I'm always most proud of was the work I did with the Indigenous youth, the Shannon's Dream campaign. When I first went up to the far north communities, I couldn't believe that I was still in Canada with kids living in, 21 people in a moldy house. We didn't have proper schools. There was just such a seeming disinterest that this was the situation. And I've seen this young generation of Indigenous youth really step up. It's an incredible thing to be a witness to. I mean, maybe I played a bit of a role of helping to encourage, but I have a lot of hope for the future. I know that this young generation, they're taking strides that will make us a better nation. And being part of that was an amazing, amazing thing to do. As for whether or not I feel like I miss the House of Commons, nah, not a chance. There's a big old world out there, and I'm loving that big old world, and I'm loving talking to people in ordinary language about ordinary things, and just seeing the decency and the practicality of Canadians outside of that, the monkey house is feeling pretty good.
All right, speaking of talking, let's talk about the Resistance Tour. What is it?
Well, it's really an interesting thing what's happened. I think when Trump was elected, I immediately knew we were going into something we'd never seen before. I didn't think I was overreacting, but this was, when a convicted felon who's pushed for insurrection in the United States gets elected, all bets were off. And I felt at that moment I needed to start speaking up and articulating the dangerous times we were in. And I felt a lot of people were frightened and started reaching out to me. Then when Trump started to threaten our country, we were completely gobsmacked. We were like, this couldn't be happening. And there was initially, I think, a lot of fear. People didn't know how far this was going to go. And then something extraordinary happened. People just said, wait a minute, no, you're not going to push us around. And that's where we started to see the boycott, the grassroots resistance, people stepping up and really discovering a kind of Canadian power that they had in themselves. I call it the Juno Beach gene, like we're like likable slackers, but push us around and guess what? It ain't going to happen. And people started asking me to come speak. People asked me to start writing about things. And it snowballed. I'm writing pretty much an essay a day on the Charlie Angus Resistance Substack. I've got followers all over the world. In fact, every single state of the United States, according to my statistics, are reading me. We're going out, we're doing rallies. And part of it is to inspire people and to reassure them that we're going to get through this. And the other is like, hey, what are we doing at the grassroots? Because nobody's coming to save us. No one is coming to save Canada. We're going to have to step up and do this ourselves.
That's the key question, I think, Charlie, is how do you do it at the grassroots? What people do we – I think a lot of people are concerned about the uncertainty of what's happening right now with President Trump, but what can we do?
Well, right now, the boycott is having a huge impact. And the great thing about the boycott is it didn't start from the top. I mean, I've been called in the media the guy who started – the leader of the boycott. I'm not. I'm just talking about ordinary people started it. So, when you see 93% drop in wine sales to Canada from the United States, that's a massive hit. $12.3 billion they expect losses in travel this year. We've had all the Eastern Coast governors coming up and saying, come on, Canada, let's be friends again. Well, you know what? We'll be friends once your government stops kidnapping people off the streets and your government stops threatening our nation. That's how we become friends again, when the rule of law is reestablished. So the boycott is a huge power. So if you can't do anything else, just do that. But I really encourage people, start getting active at the local level. We have to start getting involved in our communities. If we're going to be a nation that has to find our own way in the world, then we have a lot of good people at the ordinary level. And I say to people, I don't care what it is you're doing, but do something, get active, stop doom scrolling, stop fighting with people on Facebook, get out and just meet your neighbors, because we have so much strength together. And it's the difference when I talk to Americans every day. They are such a divided nation, and right now we're not. So it's a fragile line we're holding, but the world is really watching Canada now. So, it is elbows up time.
Charlie, you refer to Trump as the gangster president. If you were given 5 minutes alone with the gangster in the Oval Office, what would you say to him?
Well, Donald has completely broken apart the American century. And the American century led the world for the last 80 years. Donald, in like 5 months, you've blown that apart. You've trashed NATO. You've insulted President Zelensky, someone who's standing up to fascism. You've allied yourself with gangster regimes, and you plunged your country into chaos. So, yeah, you can send the Marines against the people in L.A., but, hey, the L.A. Dodgers are going to kick your people out of the stadium when you come to try and arrest them. You're creating chaos. And, Donald, what you really need to understand is that you thought Canada were pushovers. You thought we were just all these slackers up there on our side of the border. But we will hold the line, because as anyone will tell you from any of the wars, if it was a dirty, rotten, hard job to do, Canadians did that job in the wars, because we fight fascism, we fight authoritarianism, and when it's all done, we're going to go back and live our lives. So Americans can share that with us. We can share this common border. We can share a common heritage, or Donald, you can continue to burn your side of the border to the ground, because you're facing more economic chaos than we are. We know it's going to hurt. We know we're going to be in for some tough times, but we have each other's back, and that's a real fundamental difference. So, Donald, all the gangster grifting that you're doing right now, it's catching up, and Canadians see you, and the world sees you.
Charlie, as you mentioned, there's definitely a difference between being an MP in the House of Commons or doing this thing that you're doing, where you're on tour and talking to Canadians. You're not sort of in the same shackles as when you're an MP. You're obviously watching what the Prime Minister and what the Liberal government is doing closely. Are they doing things well, doing things not well? How do you think that Mark Carney's been doing so far in terms of addressing the threats that Donald Trump poses?
Well, one of the things I feel is really important, it's all hands on deck. So I'm not going to be nitpicking the prime minister from the sidelines. I'm going to give him a chance. I think he's done some good moves. I think he's made some serious mistakes. I think this Bill C5 was a mistake of overriding Indigenous consultation. It's just going to create needless conflict. We've got great projects that are going to get off the ground through the good work that's been done. I think that was a mistake. I'm interested to see what happens after the 30-day mark, because he hasn't retaliated on the 50% tariffs, and he's waiting and he's trying to negotiate. I personally don't think we're going to get negotiations with this kind of gangster regime. And I would say the one thing that Prime Minister Trudeau did, and I mean, I had lots of problems with Prime Minister Trudeau, but when Trump threatened us and Trudeau said we'd go back dollar for dollar, pound for pound in retaliation, it spooked Trump. So I'm going to do my part. I think there's going to be times when I want to certainly light a fire under the prime minister, but I'm trusting him right now to do this for all of us. So I'm people, if you come hear me speak, I'm pretty much saying what I think. I don't have the leader's office calling and say, what did you just say? But I think Canadians are ready for frank conversation. Canadians get it, and we're all in the trenches together. So I might be a little louder on the political front about the threat we're facing, but we expect that our prime minister is going to do the job, and we cannot be offering concessions and cutting deals, because they're just going to come back for more.
You mentioned Bill C5, and I wonder about that too, because you have those competing interests, right? We hear all the time about this need to get projects off the ground and get moving to counter the economic uncertainty that we're facing because of President Trump. And at the same time, we have obviously the concerns from First Nations communities saying this is bulldozing the rights that we have, the constitutional rights we have. Where is the fine line, Charlie? How do we get both done?
Well, it's great to be asked that, because it's where I've spent pretty much my whole political life. I come from a mining town. I know the mining industry very well. I talk to the miners. I talk to developers. I talk to prospectors all the time. And I'm also been representing the communities, some of which are the most impoverished, and some of the ones that have faced the biggest impacts. So if you do it right, projects move ahead. I've seen really good projects move ahead. We have some great critical mineral projects ready to go. There's a huge nickel operation in Timmins, 12 kilometers out of town. That's ready to go. In Sudbury, they could be mining in new ore bodies if they made deals. The Ring of Fire has been problematic. I spent my whole political life promising to be the guy to help deliver the Ring of Fire. I've become less and less sure of that project going ahead, because they've never done the right thing of talking to some of the communities there. I mean, 30 years without clean drinking water, and Doug Ford says he's going to come in and get the riches. You go to Niskandig and ask them what they think of that, and they're going to say that ain't happening. So we can do this right, or we can start fighting amongst ourselves. So I encourage Prime Minister Carney. I know you need a lot of tools, and I encourage and I support fast tracking of a lot of things. We've got to get the trade barriers down. We've got to be able to move ahead, but we can't just walk on legitimate Indigenous concerns, because that's going to throw us back. I feel it can be done. I've done it my whole life in talking to First Nation communities, and it's about respect. And I think that what makes us different than Americans is we know that Canada is a complicated place. So let's just do it right and recognize the urgency. And I think everybody's on the same page right now of saying we got to get things done.
This may seem like a dumb question, Charlie, but you seem like a super motivated guy right now. Like it's kind of a new lease on life. Is that a fair way to describe it? The next chapter of your life is just beginning in your next mission?
I've never been as busy in my life. I got to say it's full out, full on. But I think part of it is that these are really frightening times. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're watching, Israel started bombing a nuclear plant, and then Donald Trump's talking regime change, and we're seeing the horrors in Ukraine, and we're seeing threats of our own country. And I felt when I got over my panic and my fear is that we need to just start focusing on moving forward. And I just keep telling myself, I don't got time now to be afraid. I don't got time to be depressed. I don't got time to be cynical. The world doesn't need any more cynics out there. They need people who are going to start saying, well, this is what we're facing. What are we going to do about it? Let's get to work. So, yeah, I'm getting to work, and the work's getting more and more all the time. But, I will say I'm just invigorated by the people I'm meeting from across the country and from across the world, people who want to make sure that we get through this and we don't give in. that's encouraging me. So I'm feeling like I gotta, I don't want to necessarily go on the road next week, but people are saying, hey, we really want you to come. Will you come? And, so we're going to Prince Edward Island. We're going to Nova Scotia. We're going to across Southern Ontario. We're going out to BC. They're saying, how come you're not in Alberta? Well, I was just out in Alberta. Okay, but you missed our town. Okay, I'm coming back. So and I got a very small team. There's just 3 of us, and we're trying to figure out how to juggle all the balls in the air. But you know what? It's a great honor to be doing it.
We're going to plug the tour here in a sec, Charlie, but I want to ask you bring up fear. How scared should we be of Donald Trump?
I think the issue is if we bend and we gave in, which he thought we would do, we would continue to be broken as a nation, but we haven't. So we hold the line. This man, I think, is dangerously unhinged. This man doesn't believe in the rule of law. If you read any of the biographies of his first term and how it started to disintegrate, he is a serious menace. But I think he's more of a menace to the American people right now, and I feel bad for them. But, it's always easier to stand up to authoritarianism when they're still getting their act together than once they're established. So right now, we have an opportunity, and Canada really is a model for the world. I hear it all the time. People saying to me from other countries, elbows up. We want to be like Canada. You guys have stood up. So we got to just keep telling ourselves, yeah, we can do this, and we'll get through this, and we'll be there on the other side still standing. It's, they say Vimy or Vichy. Well, I know where Canadians will be. Canadians will be standing on that ridge of freedom at the end of the day.
All right. You mentioned a few spots that you're headed. Where are you going specifically next? And can people get tickets? How do you go about getting that?
Well, the best way is to go onto Charlie Angus Resistance Substack. We update people. So my next, I'm actually playing with the band over the next few weeks. So that's my other side, the Grievous Angels. But going to be in Newfoundland, St. John's, July 15th. That's one of our main summer ones. We're putting a lot off to the fall, and we're in Prince Edward Island, beginning of September. We're Bruce Grey County, Owen Sound, start of September. Then we head out to Saskatchewan. We're getting questions about Hamilton, Windsor. I could go on and on. I can't even keep track. I just know we're going to be on the road.
You would have a wonderful conversation with our producer, Derek, who's a drummer. That's his side gig. So I'm sure you guys would hit it off just fine. Charlie, thanks for your time today. Appreciate the insight. Good to see you.
Great to be on the show. Thanks so much.
Well, if only he would speak his mind.
Yeah, it was really tough to get Charlie to actually open up.
Come out of his shell a little.
You know what? You have to respect Charlie. He is was a universally respected MP for
and still is.
Oh, yeah. But as an MP, he was universally respected 2 decades. People listened to what he said. He was a fierce advocate for the First Nation communities in his riding.
Yes.
A very intelligent guy. And it's not surprising at all to me that he's doing something like this. Mm-hmm. I think it's right up his alley. And it was really interesting to hear, just like you said, how invigorated he is and how it's kind of like the next chapter in his career.
And you can tell how passionate he is about this. And he alluded to it. Maybe not as passionate as his former job. So
your hands are kind of tied as an MP. You got to follow the protocols, and you got to be with your party, and you got to wait for him. It would have been up in the third level there with the third party. But on a personal level, Scott, this is an exciting day for us. This is episode 1 of Closer Look. Yeah. We're going to do our best every day to kind of hit home runs. We might ground a shortstop sometimes, but we want these episodes to be as good as they can be. And like I said at the beginning, I think there's going to be a great variety of discussions. We're going to talk about serious issues like we did with Charlie. We're going to talk sometimes about a fun thing. We're going to talk about and explain things to people about important issues that they might not understand completely. And I think it's just going to be a great outlet to have a lot of conversations with smart people. Absolutely. Closer Look at villagemedia.ca. We would love to get some feedback from you, maybe some show ideas, any thoughts, comments, considerations. We'd love to hear from you. Closer Look at villagemedia.ca. We'll be back tomorrow night at 7 o'clock across the Village Media Network and, of course, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. For all of us at Village Media, thanks for watching.